Captain Liam Riker sat in the cockpit of his aging cargo freighter, the Starlance, bored out of his mind. The stars zipped past the viewports as the ship hummed through an asteroid field on a routine patrol. It had been months since he'd had a job worth the fuel it burned, but contracts were contracts, and his latest gig with the United Earth Alliance was about as dry as they came, scouting for debris, derelicts, and the occasional pirate skirmish. Another day, another empty stretch of space, Liam muttered, sipping from his rapidly cooling cup of synth coffee. He had just leaned back in his chair, ready to zone out for the rest of the shift, when a shrill beep echoed across the control panel. The radar flashed red, a distress signal. Faint, but unmistakable. Liam straightened up, setting his coffee aside. Now what do we have here? Tapping a few keys, he brought the signal up on screen. It wasn't human, definitely not from any ship registered with the Earth Alliance. His curiosity piqued. Liam ran a scan of the area, and his heart jumped when the results came back. The signal was coming from an alien craft, and it was badly damaged, drifting helplessly just outside the asteroid belt. Well, that's interesting. Liam's fingers danced across the controls, changing course. As the Starlance approached the source of the signal, the alien vessel came into view. It was a sleek, silver ship, scarred with burn marks and fractures. From the looks of it, the vessel had been through a serious battle. Plasma burns scorched its hull, and several compartments appeared depressurized, venting gas into the cold vacuum of space. Liam activated the ship's AI. Greta, run a life scan. The AI's voice chimed in smoothly. One life form detected. Critical condition. Liam's brow furrowed. Whoever was on that ship didn't have much time left. Protocol dictated that he should call for backup, alert the Earth Alliance to a potential alien encounter. But by the time help arrived, whoever was aboard would likely be dead. His gut told him there wasn't enough time. Greta, prepare the docking procedure, Liam ordered. His decision made. As the Starlance docked with the alien craft, Liam grabbed his medkit and donned his EVA suit, sealing his helmet. With a press of a button, the airlock hissed open, and he floated into the alien ship. The interior was dimly lit, its design smooth and elegant, with strange, glowing symbols along the walls. There was an eerie stillness inside, broken only by the faint hum of malfunctioning systems. Following the life readings, Liam navigated through the corridors until he found the cockpit. The moment he stepped inside, his breath caught in his throat. Slumped in the pilot's seat was a young alien girl, unconscious and gravely wounded. Her skin was a luminescent violet, shimmering faintly in the low light, and her long, white hair floated gently in the zero-gravity environment. She was humanoid in form but strikingly different in appearance, with delicate features and large, expressive eyes that were closed in pain. Liam quickly scanned her condition. Her pulse was weak, and there were deep cuts and burns across her body. She had been through hell, and if he didn't act fast, she wouldn't make it. Without hesitation, he lifted her fragile body and hurried back to the Starlance. As he placed her on the medical bed in the ship's medbay, the girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open for a brief moment. She gazed up at him, her violet eyes glowing faintly with confusion and fear. "It's okay," Liam said softly, his voice calm but urgent. "I'm going to help you." She opened her mouth to speak, but only a faint, melodic sound escaped before she lost consciousness again. Liam immediately activated the medbay's automated systems, hooking her up to oxygen and injecting her with a cocktail of stabilizers. The machinery beeped and whirred as it worked to repair the worst of her injuries. For several tense moments, Liam watched the monitors, waiting for any sign of improvement. Finally, the readings began to stabilize. Her breathing steadied, and her heart rate returned to a safer rhythm. She was out of immediate danger, but she was far from recovered. Liam let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding and leaned against the wall, staring at the mysterious girl. "Who are you?" he murmured, more to himself than to her. He knew he had stumbled into something far bigger than he'd bargained for. This wasn't just some random alien stranded in space. This girl had been running from something powerful enough to destroy her ship and leave her for dead. And now, by saving her, Liam had unknowingly placed himself in the crosshairs of whatever had been chasing her. For now, though. He had no choice but to wait and hope that she would wake up and provide some answers. As the Starlents drifted further from the asteroid belt, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to take a very different and dangerous turn. Hours had passed since the alien girl had been brought on board, and Liam found himself pacing the narrow corridors of the Starlents, his mind filled with questions. Who was she? Why was she being hunted? And what had she done to earn the wrath of those sleek, deadly ships? The ship's AI, Greta, interrupted his thoughts. Life form in the medbay is regaining consciousness. Liam's heart skipped a beat. He rushed to the medbay, unsure of what to expect. As he entered, he saw the alien girl stirring, her violet eyes slowly fluttering open. She blinked, taking in her surroundings before her gaze landed on him. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, she tried to sit up, grimacing in pain. Liam quickly stepped forward, holding out his hands in a calming gesture. Hey, take it easy, he said softly. You've been through a lot. I'm not here to hurt you. The girl paused, her eyes narrowing as if trying to understand him. Liam could tell she was still wary, but there was something in her expression, relief. Perhaps that suggested she knew he wasn't a threat. You saved me? She asked, her voice soft but melodic, with a slight accent he didn't recognize. Liam nodded. Yeah, I found your ship drifting. It looked like it had been attacked. You were in bad shape. She looked down at herself, noticing the medical equipment attached to her body. Her eyes widened slightly, but she quickly relaxed, as if realizing she was no longer in danger. After a few moments, she met his gaze again. Thank you, she said quietly. I owe you my life. Liam gave her a small smile. Don't mention it. Just doing what any decent person would do. The girl studied him for a moment, her eyes filled with curiosity. You're human? Last time I checked, Liam replied with a chuckle. And you are? She hesitated before speaking, as if unsure whether to reveal too much. My name is Aria. I'm from a planet called Valoria, far from here. Liam had never heard of Valoria, but that wasn't surprising. The galaxy was vast, and many alien civilizations remained isolated from human contact. He leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. So, Aria, who was after you? Those ships that attacked, they weren't friendly. At the mention of the hostile ships, Aria's expression darkened. She looked down, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the edge of the medbay bed. They are called the Sindar, she said, her voice tinged with bitterness. A ruthless faction that conquers and enslaves worlds. They destroyed my home, my family. I barely escaped with my life. Liam's chest tightened as he listened. He had heard of factions like the Sindar before, power-hungry groups that tore through the galaxy, leaving devastation in their wake. But hearing it firsthand from someone who had lived through it, it hit differently. I'm sorry, he said quietly, his tone sincere. Aria nodded, her eyes distant as if reliving the horrors she had witnessed. They've been hunting me ever since I escaped. I carry something they want, something I stole from their leader. Liam raised an eyebrow. What is it? Aria hesitated, then pulled a small, glowing crystal from a pouch on her belt. The crystal pulsed with a faint, otherworldly light, casting a soft glow over her face. This, she said, holding it up for him to see. It's called the Heart of Valoria. It's the core of my planet's power, the essence of our people. The Sindar wanted to fuel their war machines, to enslave entire systems. Liam stared at the crystal, awed by its beauty and the gravity of what she had just told him. He could see now why the Sindar had been so relentless in their pursuit. This wasn't just some trinket, this was something far more valuable. You're telling me they're hunting you for this? Liam asked. Aria nodded. If they get their hands on it, countless worlds will fall. That's why I need to keep moving. I can't let them catch me. Liam ran a hand through his hair, processing everything. He had gotten himself involved in something far more dangerous than he'd anticipated. The Sindar weren't going to stop hunting Aria, and now, by association, they would be after him too. But as he looked at the girl sitting in front of him, vulnerable and determined, something inside him shifted. He couldn't just abandon her, not after everything she'd been through. She needed help, and whether he liked it or not, he was now part of her story. All right, Liam said, standing up straight. If they're after you, then I guess that makes me part of this mess too. We'll figure something out together. Aria's eyes widened in surprise.
You'd help me?
Liam shrugged. Yeah, it's not like I've got much else going on. Besides, I'm not the type to leave someone behind, especially when they're being hunted by a bunch of power-hungry maniacs. A faint smile tugged at the corner of Aria's lips, the first real smile he'd seen from her since she woke up. Thank you. Liam, I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Let's focus on staying alive first, Liam replied with a grin. We'll worry about the rest later. As they shared a brief moment of understanding, a sudden beep from the cockpit interrupted them. Liam's grin faded, and he glanced over his shoulder. Greta, what's going on? He called out. The AI responded in its usual calm tone.
Sindar vessels have been detected in the vicinity.
They are tracking the Starlance. Liam's stomach dropped. The Sindar had found them. We've got company, Liam said, turning back to Aria. Looks like your friends aren't giving up that easily. Aria's face hardened, her eyes narrowing in determination. Then we have to fight. Liam nodded. Damn right we do. As the ship's proximity alarms blared, Liam rushed to the cockpit, Aria close behind him. The Sindar weren't going to stop, and now that they had caught up, there was only one option left, face them head on. Liam's heart pounded in his chest as he slid into the pilot's seat, scanning the controls and checking the ship's systems. The proximity sensors blared a constant warning, and as he looked through the viewport, 3 Sindar vessels appeared on the horizon, closing in fast. Greta, how far until they're in firing range? Liam asked. Approximately 60 seconds, the AI responded calmly. Great. Just enough time for a miracle, he muttered. Aria stood behind him, her face pale but determined. They're not going to stop. Liam, they'll keep coming until they have the heart. Liam's gaze flicked to the small glowing crystal in her hands. That tiny piece of Valoria, containing unimaginable power, was the reason for this mess. And now, he was tied to it. He had faced trouble before, but this was on a whole new level. Do we have any chance of fighting them off? Aria asked, her voice tight with worry. Liam shook his head grimly. The Starlance isn't a combat ship. Our weapons are defensive at best, but we've got to try something. Maybe if we can stall them, we can make a run for it. Aria clenched her fists. Then let's give them hell. Liam grinned despite the danger. That's the spirit. The Sindar ships were almost in range now, sleek and menacing as they glided through space like predators. He knew they were armed to the teeth, plasma cannons, advanced shields, and enough firepower to tear his ship apart in seconds. But Liam had one advantage: he knew how to fly, and he knew how to improvise. Greta, deploy countermeasures and activate evasive maneuvers, Liam commanded. Countermeasures deployed. Evasive pattern delta initiated, the AI responded. The Starlance jerked to the side as automated systems took control, sending out bursts of electronic interference to confuse the Sindar's targeting systems. The ship swerved and twisted through space, avoiding the first few volleys of plasma fire. Liam gripped the controls, taking over manual flight as he guided the ship into a series of sharp, unpredictable maneuvers. Plasma blasts lit up the space around them, some coming dangerously close. But so far, the Sindar hadn't landed a direct hit. They're adapting to our movements, Greta warned. Their targeting systems are compensating for the interference. Of course they are, Liam muttered under his breath. He had expected that. He glanced at the weapons display. The Starlance had 2 forward-facing laser turrets and a rear defensive cannon. Not exactly a warship's arsenal, but it was better than nothing.
Aria?
I'm going to need you to man the rear cannon, Liam said, pointing toward the back of the cockpit. It's not much, but it'll keep them busy while I try to outmaneuver them. Aria hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. Got it. She moved quickly to the cannon controls, her hand steady as she activated the system. A small targeting display lit up in front of her, showing the position of the enemy ships. Rear cannon online, she confirmed. Good. Let's see if we can make them regret following us. The Sindar ships were closing in, their plasma cannons charging for another strike. Liam gritted his teeth and pushed the Starlance into a steep dive, just as the first barrage of fire erupted behind them. Aria, now. Without hesitation, Aria fired the rear cannon. Twin beams of energy shot out from the starlets, striking one of the Sindar ships directly in its hull. The ship shuddered, its shields flickering, but it stayed on course. They're not going down easy, Aria called out. Didn't expect them to, Liam replied, swerving the ship again to avoid another blast. Just keep firing. We've got to buy some time. The Sindar ships were relentless, circling the starlets like wolves around a wounded prey. One of them broke off and tried to cut them off from the side. But Aria was quick to respond, sending another volley of laser fire toward the incoming vessel. For a brief moment, it looked like the laser had struck something critical. The Sindar ship wobbled, its engines sputtering before it fell back, retreating from the fight. Yes, Aria shouted triumphantly. Liam felt a surge of hope, but it was short-lived. The remaining 2 Sindar ships regrouped, and he could see their plasma cannons glowing brighter, preparing for a full assault. They're charging up for something big, Liam said, his voice tense. If they hit us with that, we're done for. Aria's face paled. What do we do? Liam's mind raced. They were outgunned and outmatched. There was no way they could win this fight. But maybe, just maybe, they could outsmart the Sindar. Greta, how close are we to that asteroid belt we passed earlier? Liam asked. Approximately 0. 3 light minutes away, Greta responded. Plot a course for the asteroid field. We'll lose them in the debris. Aria's eyes widened. You want to fly into an asteroid field? Liam shot her a grin. Hey, it's either that or get vaporized. Besides, I've done crazier things. Without waiting for her response, Liam hit the throttle, sending the Starlance rocketing toward the asteroid belt. The Sindar ships followed, plasma cannons ready to fire, but Liam pushed the engines to their limit, weaving through space at breakneck speed. The asteroid belt loomed ahead, a vast field of spinning rocks and debris. Liam's hands tightened on the controls as he guided the ship into the chaos, dodging and weaving between the massive chunks of rock. Brace yourself, he shouted to Aria. The Starlance shot into the asteroid field, the Sindar ships close behind. Plasma blasts streaked past them, but the asteroids provided cover, forcing the Sindar to adjust their aim. Liam maneuvered the ship with expert precision, using the asteroids to his advantage. He guided the Starlance through narrow gaps, dodging both enemy fire and the deadly debris. One of the Sindar ships wasn't so lucky. As it tried to follow, a massive asteroid slammed into its side, tearing through its hull. The ship exploded in a fiery burst, debris scattering through space. 2 down, 1 to go, Liam muttered, his focus razor-sharp. The last remaining Sindar ship was still on their tail, more determined than ever. It fired a barrage of plasma blasts, one of which struck the Starlance directly in the aft section. The ship rocked violently, alarms blaring as systems began to fail. Shields at critical levels, Greta warned. Come on, hold together, Liam urged, gritting his teeth as he pushed the ship harder. They were deep in the asteroid field now, the Sindar ship still in pursuit. Liam spotted a particularly large asteroid ahead and got an idea. Aria, get ready to fire. I'm going to give you 1 shot. Aria nodded, her hands gripping the cannon controls. Liam waited until the last possible second, then swerved sharply to the right, using the asteroid as cover. The Sindar ship followed, moving into position behind them. Now, Liam shouted. Aria fired the rear cannon, hitting the asteroid instead of the ship. The impact caused the massive rock to break apart, sending a cloud of debris hurtling toward the Sindar vessel. The enemy ship tried to dodge, but it was too late. The debris slammed into its hull, tearing it apart. In a brilliant flash of light, the Sindar ship exploded, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. Liam let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Did we just win? Aria asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Liam grinned. Looks like it. As the Starlance limped out of the asteroid field, Liam glanced back at Aria. She was staring at him, her expression a mix of awe and gratitude. You saved my life. Again, she said softly. Liam shrugged. Just part of the job. But in that moment, he could feel something shift between them. The tension from the battle faded, replaced by an unspoken understanding. They were in this together now, and whatever came next, They would face it side by side. The Starlents limped through space, the battle-scarred hull still sparking from the damage they'd barely survived. Inside the cockpit, the tension between Liam and Aria was palpable. Both were exhausted, but the weight of their shared ordeal had created a deeper connection, one neither could ignore. "We need to get out of Sindar space before reinforcements show up," Liam said, his voice hoarse from the adrenaline-fueled battle. He turned to Greta, their AI co-pilot. "Plot a course for the nearest neutral system and engage the jump drive. Jump drive at 60% capacity." "Captain," Greta replied. "We will not achieve full jump distance." Liam frowned. "We don't have much of a choice. Let's hope we can find somewhere to lay low and make repairs." Aria sat in the co-pilot seat, still clutching the glowing crystal, the Heart of Valoria, close to her chest. She stared at it as if it carried the weight of the universe, which in a way, it did. "They'll keep hunting us," she said quietly. "As long as I have this, we'll never be safe." Liam glanced at her, noticing the shadows under her eyes, the strain in her voice. He'd risked everything to save her, and now the cinder wouldn't stop until they had the heart. He had known that protecting her meant making enemies out of some of the galaxy's most dangerous hunters, but now it was personal. "They can try," Liam said softly, "but I'm not letting them take you or that crystal." Aria looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "Why? Liam, why did you help me?" "You had no reason to. You could have left me behind." He met her gaze steadily. "Because you're worth saving, Aria, and I don't abandon people when they're in danger." "That's not who I am." For a moment, the air between them was thick with unspoken emotion. Then Aria looked down, her fingers tracing the surface of the heart. "This crystal, it holds so much power. It could restore my people, rebuild Valoria, but in the wrong hands, it could destroy entire worlds. I can't let that happen." Liam watched her, realizing just how much responsibility she carried. The fate of an entire race rested in her hands. It wasn't just about saving her. It was about the future of her people. "You don't have to do this alone," Liam said, his voice gentle but firm. "We'll figure it out. Together." Before she could respond, Greta's voice interrupted. "Jump drive is online. Preparing for hyperspace jump in 5 seconds." The familiar hum of the ship's systems filled the cockpit as the stars stretched into long, white lines, and then everything blurred as the Starlents shot into hyperspace. Hours later, the ship emerged from hyperspace, drifting into the shadow of a small, uncharted moon. The neutral system was far from Cinder patrol routes, a quiet, forgotten corner of the galaxy where they could make repairs without being disturbed. Liam stood at the viewport, looking out at the desolate landscape below. "This will do for now," he said, relieved that they had at least a moment to breathe. Behind him, Aria approached, the Heart of Valoria still glowing faintly in her hands. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice hesitant. Liam turned to her, his brow furrowed. "What is it?" "The heart," she hesitated, then continued. "It's not just a powerful relic. It's connected to me. My people were born of its energy, and now that I have it, it's bound to me. I can sense its pull, but it's also changing me." Liam stared at her, alarmed. "What do you mean?"
"Changing you?"
Aria looked down, her hands trembling slightly as she held the crystal. "The heart is amplifying something within me, abilities I didn't know I had. It's like I can feel everything, the stars, the planets, the energy of life around us. And it's getting stronger. I don't know how to control it." Liam's mind raced. This was more than he'd bargained for. He had thought he was just rescuing a girl and helping her protect an ancient artifact. But this was much bigger. "Are you in danger? Is it hurting you?" Aria shook her head. "No, it's not painful, but it's overwhelming. I'm afraid of what might happen if I can't control it." Liam took a deep breath, trying to process everything. "We'll figure it out," he said. "There has to be a way to help you control this power." She smiled faintly, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "You've already done so much." "Liam, I don't know how I can ever repay you." He shrugged, stepping closer. "You don't need to repay me. I'm here because I want to be, because I care about what happens to you. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the weight of the galaxy fell away. They stood there, close enough to feel each other's presence, the tension between them shifting from fear and uncertainty to something deeper, something unspoken, but undeniable. "Liam," Aria whispered, her voice barely audible. Before she could say more, Liam reached out and gently placed his hand over hers, covering the heart. "We'll get through this. Together." Aria looked up at him, her eyes glistening with emotion. And then, without another word, she closed the distance between them, leaning in and pressing her lips to his in a soft, tentative kiss. Liam's heart raced, but he kissed her back, his arms wrapping around her in a protective embrace. In that moment, it didn't matter that they were being hunted or that the future was uncertain. All that mattered was the connection between them, forged in the fires of danger and bound by something deeper than either of them had expected. When they finally pulled apart, Aria smiled, a look of peace on her face. "I'm glad it was you," she said softly. Liam smiled back, his hand still resting over hers on the heart. "Me too." As they stood together, staring out at the endless stars beyond, Liam knew that their journey was far from over. The Sindar would come for them again. The galaxy was still a dangerous place, but with Aria by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. Suddenly, Greta's voice interrupted the moment. "Captain, I've detected an incoming ship. Scanning for identification." Liam's heart sank as he pulled away from Aria. "Can you tell who it is?" "Preliminary scans indicate a Sindar vessel. It's closing in fast. Let's prepare," Liam said, urgency creeping into his tone. "We need to defend the ship." Aria's expression turned serious as she gripped the heart tightly. "They won't stop until they have it." Liam nodded, moving to the controls. "Greta, prepare the weapon systems. We may have to fight our way out." "Affirmative, Captain. Weapon systems online." Aria felt a surge of energy from the heart, an almost electric pulse flowing through her veins. "Liam, I think I can help." He turned to her, concern etched on his face.
Help how?
"We need to defend the ship. I can tap into the heart's energy. I've felt its power before. Maybe I can create a shield or something." Liam hesitated, weighing the risks. "But what if you lose control? I can't let you take that chance." "Please," she said, determination shining in her eyes. "I can do this. I won't let them take us." Seeing the resolve in her expression, Liam knew he had to trust her. "Okay, but be careful." As the Cinder ship appeared on the scanner, looming ominously in the distance, Aria closed her eyes and focused on the heart. The crystal pulsed rhythmically, sending waves of energy throughout the cockpit. She could feel the raw power surging through her, a connection deeper than she had ever experienced. "Now, Aria," Liam shouted, his voice cutting through her concentration. With a fierce determination, she extended her hands toward the viewport, channeling the energy of the heart. A brilliant light enveloped the ship, forming a shimmering barrier just as the Cinder ship fired upon them. The blast hit the barrier, and for a moment, everything was still. Aria strained under the pressure of the energy, her heart racing as she maintained the shield. The ship rocked violently, but the barrier held, absorbing the energy of the attack. Liam watched in awe. "You're doing it, Aria. Keep it up." The Cinder ship adjusted its trajectory, preparing for another strike. Liam quickly armed the weapons. "Greta, target their engines. We need to disable them." Locking onto their engines, targeting. "Now! Fire!" Liam commanded. The starlance erupted with energy, the bolts of light arcing through space and slamming into the Cinder vessel. A brilliant explosion lit up the dark void as the Cinder ship began to spiral, its engines disabled, trailing smoke and debris. The barrier flickered as Aria struggled to maintain it. "Liam, I can't hold this much longer." He rushed to her side, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You can do this, Aria. Just focus." With a final surge of energy, Aria managed to strengthen the shield just as the Sindar ship veered off course, becoming a wreck in the vacuum of space. The barrier pulsed one last time before collapsing, leaving the starlets in a silent aftermath. They both took a moment to breathe, the adrenaline still coursing through their veins. "Did we?" Aria started, but her words faltered. Liam nodded. a mixture of relief and pride flooding through him. Yeah, we did. You were incredible, Aria smiled, though exhaustion weighed heavily on her. It was the heart. It's more powerful than I ever imagined. Liam's expression turned serious again, but they won't stop coming for it. We need to keep moving. Figure out our next steps. Right, Aria said, taking a deep breath to steady herself. But first, we need to repair the ship. If we're going to keep running, we need to be prepared. Liam smirked, the tension lifting slightly. Always thinking ahead. I like that. As they moved to their respective stations, a newfound camaraderie blossomed between them. They had faced danger together and survived, their bond forged in the heat of battle. The future remained uncertain, but they were no longer alone in their struggle. And as they set their course for the next destination, Aria clutched the Heart of Valoria, feeling its pulse sync with her own. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to protect not just their lives, but the fate of an entire world. As the starlings drifted into the void, a dark shadow loomed in the distance, an ominous reminder that the Sindar were far from defeated. The Heart of Valoria was still in danger, and the battle for its future had only just begun.